I've been a Chicago police officer for the last 22 years, and prior to this, I was a Chicago Park District lifeguard for 12 years. Yesterday, first of all, I'm in plain clothes because I'm on furlough. So I was off duty yesterday, obviously. I was sitting on my boat, relaxing, watching television. All of a sudden, I heard a helicopter hovering up above, and I could tell that it wasn't moving, going anywhere anytime soon. So I came out of my boat, I looked around. Next thing you know, I saw a lot of police vehicles and fire trucks heading toward the lake. So I ran up on top of that hill, and I could see two people in the water right here behind me, and I saw the jet ski was capsized. So I ran back to my boat, grabbed my life jacket, jumped on my jet ski, came right out of the harbor as quickly as I could, and when I pulled up, I had one of them jump onto my jet ski. It's a three-seater, so all three of us could have been on there, but the guy who tried to get on last ended up flipping all of us into the water. So I had no plans on getting into that cold water. The water was 62 degrees yesterday, and it was freezing. So at that point, I had to get back onto the jet ski. I told one of the people in the water, they did have life jackets on at the time. I told him to get on my jet ski, and I looked out and I saw two females on an additional jet ski. They were drifting further out, about 50 yards. He apparently jumped off of that jet ski to help the person who was in the water. So I took him to that jet ski where the two girls were and came back, grabbed the guy out of the water because I told him to stay there by the capsized jet ski, brought him right over here to this pier. Sergeant Beltrain and the fire department were lined up here on the pier. They lowered a ladder into the water and helped us get out of the water. Like I said, I was a lifeguard. I like to say that we're all lifeguards for life. And I just so happened to be in the right place at the right time. I saw that they needed help, and I knew I can get to them much quicker because I knew it was going to take some time for the Marine unit to get here. So I was able to get to them as quickly as possible. I have to also mention the Marine unit, when they showed up on the scene, they towed in that capsized jet ski all the way over to the shore. One thing I always remember, when you hear a helicopter and you see it's just hovering right around the lakefront, I always tend to think back when I was a lifeguard and I know something must be going on near the water. That's what made me come out of my boat and run up on top of the hill. I just wanted to see if I could see anything. And certainly once I saw them in the water, I knew I can get to them quickly on that jet ski. I knew I didn't have time to untie my boat, start up the engines, and drive over here. So the quickest way for me to get to them was to jump on my jet ski. On duty, off duty, there's no such thing to police officers. We're always on duty.
The question was, the beaches are closed, and is there concern that people are going to drown? We ask that people don't go into the water unless there's lifeguards present and the beaches are open. It's a safety issue. I think we're asking people to be patient. It appears that the beaches are going to open up soon enough, and we just want them to be safe. We don't want to see any more drownings or any drownings at all this summer. And the only way we can prevent that is they swim in areas where there's lifeguards present. So absolutely. So the concern this year is the water level is extremely high. A lot of the piers that over the last few years may have been completely above water level now are partially submerged, and it doesn't take much wave action for them to be knocked off these piers. So we want them to not go on these piers, especially if there's any high winds or high wave conditions. I was extremely happy to see him. He did a great job. That's a very difficult rescue. It's difficult when you're trained on a wave runner to perform rescues, and he was doing it without being trained. They're not a very stable platform. He did a fantastic job. They were in the water for probably about 10 minutes. Water temperature is about 60 degrees. So they were starting to feel the effects of hypothermia, and they were panicking. The jet ski was partially submerged. So I think he did a fantastic job.
Were lives saved here yesterday?
Absolutely, without a doubt. And we thank him. He did a fantastic job.
Was it real rough on the water yesterday?
It was very choppy. It was choppier than what it is today. It was choppy out yesterday. So yeah, let's take this opportunity to give some boating safety tips. Very basic. The most important thing we can tell boaters is to always wear a life jacket. Life jackets save lives. We've seen cases where people don't know how to swim and they fall overboard and they drown because they weren't wearing the life jacket, and there was a life jacket on the boat. Coast Guard regulations require that all vessels have a life jacket on board for each person on that boat, but we recommend that they actually wear the life jacket while they're underway on that vessel. Again, we mentioned the high water level this year, so there's piers, there's jetties, there's pylons that in years past may have been above water or partially submerged, and this year they're completely submerged. So we ask that all boaters, regardless of their experience level, take a look at a navigation chart so they're aware of where those hazards may be. Another great resource is the Chicago Harbor Safety Committee website. It's chicagoharborsafetycommittee.org. They have a very great video that highlights some of those areas, underwater hazards. So the harbor is officially open on the 22nd of June. So boating season here in Chicago has officially opened. There are restrictions. They can look at the State of Illinois Department of Commerce website, or they can look at the Chicago Harbor's website, and the boating regulations are on there. The most current boating regulations are on there. It's based on the size of the vessel, how many people they can have on the boat. That's one of the most common questions that we get asked, how many people they can have on their boat. Right now, for a vessel above the size of 36 feet, they can only have 8 adults on the vessel. 10 people if those kids are under the age of 17.
Everyone needs personal flotation.
Yes, that's a Coast Guard regulation. If they're on a boat, every person needs to have a life jacket on that boat. I think he did a fantastic job.
Your lives saved here yesterday?
Absolutely, without a doubt. And we thank him. He did a fantastic job.